How are y'all feeling? Y'all doing okay? Thank you so much for being here, for rocking with us, moving around your chairs and things. I appreciate it. My name is Joy Alise. My pronouns are she, they. I work here at Imagine Black as the president and executive director. I'm like super honored to be with y'all. Big fans of Momentum Alliance. Excited to see you being here today. Um, I was asked to do lecture is not the right word, but to do a talk on a concept called Black Radical Imagination. It feels really fitting because we have named the space the Center for Black Radical Imagination. But I'm curious before I get started, have y'all heard of this term before? Is it new? Okay, this is good. I like it. It's going to probably feel similar and familiar in some ways. Hopefully, at the same time, also challenges you a little bit in others. But yeah, I invite you to just kind of be on a journey with me. We're going to be learning some new things, going to be unlearning. We're going to be remembering, hopefully, conjuring up some good vibes and energies and really thinking about the future. I also know that I'm a very fast talker. I grew up in Jamaica, so like if you give me an ear or something like that, I will slow down and make some space. So please let me know and keep me grounded. I also have some fun eye things, so I might get really close to my paper if that's okay with y'all. But what I love so much about Black Radical Imagination is it's not really a theory, but a practice. This practice of dreaming, this practice of not being satisfied with what the current world looks like, of world building. Is there some like sci-fi folks in the room or some Marvel and DC folks? Okay, it's gonna feel this concept that we can dream up new worlds, that we don't have to be okay with what the world looks like, what the systems we're operating in. It allows for quite a lot of space to dream, space to be. What I also like about it is that it's not a new concept. It's a muscle that our ancestors used, whether you're indigenous of this land or other lands. It's a muscle. It's a life-affirming force. It also can be somewhat of a compass when things get really stressful or when you're not sure what to do. I feel like in moments like this, when it feels like we're in crisis, when we are in crisis, being able to ground yourself on what we're looking and what we're moving towards is really important. I think a lot about there's some folks I want to like bring into the space that like taught me this phrase. I'm gonna just get nerdy and show you some books. Okay, so the first is, have you heard of Octavia's Brood at all? Walida, Amarisha, and then Adrienne Marie Brown. Walida's actually here in Oregon, born and raised down the street at Portland State University. She particularly taught me that sci-fi is organizing and to kind of connect up multiple worlds. There's another amazing book, How We Get Free. It's Black Feminism and the Combahee River Collective. I also recommend this book. It's a little bit challenging, but it has really great interviews with some great Black femme scholars and activists. And then last but not least, there's this book called Freedom Dreams. If you would like a copy today, we would love to give you a copy. This is by someone that I admire that I have not yet got a chance to meet. His name is Robin D.G. Kelly. He's in California. He's just out here learning more about Black movements and social movements and writing it down and theorizing. He's reminding us how important it is to dream in this moment and not get stuck in this reality. I love starting with this photo. You probably can't see, there's like a young Joy right there. This is probably about Loud of Mercy 10 years ago. In my 20s, we were doing this project called the People's Plan, and we were visioning and dreaming with folks. And what we found is that we needed to take some time and pause to ask a few questions. The heart of it was that we recognized that we were really good at talking about what we're against. I don't know if you feel really good about that. Like I can name the things that are harming me. I can get new words to describe the oppressions that we're up against. But we were having a really difficult time articulating what we're fighting for, what we're moving towards, what we're hoping to get towards. What does it look and feel like? So we asked a few questions. we were trying to figure out, what are we working towards? What are the systems we want to be in? Not just the ones we don't, but what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does a day look like when someone, your state, your city, the world loves you, and trying to organize around that. We were also really interested in what safety looked like. What does abundance looks like? What does joy look like in the future? What does Black joy look like? And what I love so much about Robin D.G. Kelly's book, he gets a little spicy, and he talks about how sometimes on the left, we often think that dreaming is very like poetic or naive or like too romantic or like not real work. But what he does is reminds us that we can't organize our way out of a crisis if we don't know where we're heading. If you're trying to like fly a plane and you don't know where you're going, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing essentially? And what we also risk is that we risk replicating systems of harm because we're actually not reminding ourselves what our values are, what we're trying to push towards, what are the systems of care that we're trying to replicate so that we don't just focus solely on dismantling. I do want to say, as I kind of go through this, I am not an expert in this. I like to say I'm a practitioner of dreams. I'm here to dream a lot, to think. I'm still trying to learn how to dream past like my own insecurities, my own grief, my own kind of the grind that I think we see in this capitalist world, trying to dream past gaslighting. But I'm also a person who really believes that dreaming is an organizing tool. And if we're not able to, I'm going to keep repeating it, but if we don't know where we're going, if we're not actually able to build the world or practice the world of practice what liberation looks like, to rehearse it, we're going to end up replicating systems. I'm not going to dive deep into the concept of Afrofuturism, but that's in there too. If you love some Afrofuturism, there's some really beautiful artists that have been dedicating their lives to thinking about what the future is for Black people and brown people. I want to call that in. I also want to share that I was growing up like a little sci-fi nerd. I loved watching all of these movies. I loved kind of seeing what the possibilities were, how people interacted with new systems with each other. But I also had a lot of grief with it. I don't know about you, but a lot of these shows just didn't reflect, didn't look like me. I found myself seeing Black and brown folks as props or tokenized or sometimes just straight up monsters. I don't know if you've seen, you're like, oh, I think that's a Black person. Like I can tell behind the makeup that it's someone that looks like me, but I'm like, dang, like, can they just get a scene? Like, why do they have to be depicted in this way? And it really got me thinking about this idea, like, do Black and brown people exist in the future? Because based off all the media, all the books I was reading, all the TV shows and movies, like I couldn't see us in it. And what I love about Afrofuturism is answers that questions. It says like, yes, not only are we in the future, but we're like building, we are existing, we are dancing, we are stewarding land. We're writing poetry, we're nurturing the next generation. I mean, it really pushes back, I think, on this like white narrative of what the future looks like. So again, I'm going to go through some things. I'm going to hold some space for us to do what I like to call like some collective rants. I love a rant. We're going to get in some small groups. We're just going to think a little bit about what the world would look like if it loved us. What are the spaces we're trying to move towards? What are we fighting for in this moment? And really try to hold ourselves towards that. Okay. Oops, did I jump to the next one? Give me a second. So when I think of Black radical imagination, I think about the fact I mentioned before, that's not a new concept. It is very ancestral. It is political. It's a political act. It's also spiritual. I just got done seeing a fun little movie. I don't know if y'all saw Sinners. Are y'all? Ooh, so many things there, so much to unpack and to learn from. But I got to think a lot about the elders in my life. In particular, I got to grow up with some of my great grandparents, and a lot of them were sharecroppers. So they like grew up exactly where that first scene was and remembers very much what it was like to live in the Jim Crow South. And I think about like what they envisioned for my family, what they envisioned for me. Did they think past this moment? And I think Black radical imagination really is that. I think about the freedom that Harriet Tubman envisioned for us. I think about, if you're big fans of Audre Lorde like myself, the joy that she refused to give up, that she pushed for. Her vision was, an inclusive vision when we talked about feminism and womanism and what it meant to be inclusive in these spaces. I think about the future that Octavia Butler wrote about and made real. I'm also a big fan of. There's this great writer, Nakenge Okafor. If you are into some sci-fi books in space, I recommend a book called the Benti series. So good, small but beautiful. You can get it at the library. And I think about the world that she was building, that she was dreaming of, one where we got a chance to be our full selves, where we got to be brave. So for me, Black radical imagination is really a rebellion. It's an act of repair. It says that the world we live in now and the world that we could be can coexist at the same time. I think something that I love about being Black is that I'm able to hold things at the same time. I'm able to both recognize, I think democracy is a great example. I can recognize the pain with democracy and not winning and feeling like we're constantly being used as props. And also I can hold the like imaginatory futures of democracy where we all get a voice. And like these two things don't have to be in conflict with each other. But I think it kind of makes up, I think, the Black and particularly I say the brown experience as well as how we navigate this country. So Black radical imagination is not, I got you, it's not abstract, but a strategy. It's survival. Yeah, do you have a question? Oh, wait, let me grab your mic.
Um, how do how do you balance the like? Hold on, give me 1 second.
No, take it down.
So you talked about holding like both spaces for like. How do you not get discouraged? You know.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, if I'm honest with myself, I don't always do it right. I do get discouraged. I do get despair. I feel moments of grief. I don't know if you're feeling it right now. Like there's just this grief in the air. I think what I love about like visionary work is it also just reminds me that like organizing around fear is so empty. I think right now about all the white supremacists who are like organizing around fear. And in the short term, they feel like they're winning. And I was like, long term, that's not going to sustain itself. So for me, I try to name what I'm feeling and not pretend like I'm not feeling despair or grief. I try to remind myself that like through community, I can get the healing that I need in the moment, and the long term work that's necessary requires healing. And I think I also just try to be, not false optimism, but like hold on to what I need this world to look like. And I think something that when I thought about like Harriet Tubman and all the ancestors and my own ancestors, like they fought for a world that they never got to see. And like, that's hard. That is a hard thing to like fight like hell for something that you might never get a chance to accomplish. But I also know that I'm living in their dream, so to speak. Like they fought like hell for us to be here. I think about even being in Oregon, like they did not want Black and brown people to be here. And like, we're here. That is us living out someone's like sci-fi dream, their fantasy, you know what I mean? Like we are literally embodying that where we are that dream. And yeah, I just try not to lie to myself and try to say, okay, I'm feeling this and I know where I want to go. Yeah. It's not perfect though. Thank you. That was a good question. Let me go to some more fun things. So I mentioned this book. Oh, y'all, this book is juicy. What I like about it is they went around and they talked to some great like activists and organizers, and they had them write short stories. And some of these folks, knew nothing about like writing a fiction story. They're like, this is not my vibe. Like I organize people. But what turned out is just a bunch of beautiful short stories of Black and brown activists talking about what they wanted the future to look like. But there's a part in the intro that Walida wrote that I want to read for y'all because I think it sums up this concept that like sci-fi is organizing, that you can't separate the two. When I was growing up, I thought they were different. Like I was in organizing programs. I was like, this is organizing. This is sci-fi. This is my personal. This is my public life. And Walida was like, no, this is the same thing. Like you're dreaming of a future, whether you're doing it through art, whether you're doing it through music, whether you're doing it through watching beautiful film, but you're also doing it as you're talking to folks, as you're trying to build power. So I'm going to read a little bit. And just framing, she was talking about why they built this, why they put together this book. But it says, we especially wanted to make space for people whose identities are marginalized and oppressed within mainstream society. Art and culture themselves are time traveling, planes of existence where the past, present, and future shift seamlessly in and out. And for those of us from communities with historic collective harm and trauma, we must understand that each of us are already science fiction walking around in two legs. And I recognize there's some ableist things in there, but you get what I'm trying to say. We're already embodying it. Just going back to it. Our ancestors dreamed us up and then bent reality to create us. For Adrian and myself, as two Black women, we think of our ancestors in chains, dreaming about the day where their children's children's children would be free. They had no reason to believe that this is likely, but together they dreamed of freedom, and they brought us into being. Now, this is my favorite part. She says, we are responsible for interpreting their regrets and realizing their imaginations. We wish to continue the work of moving forward with their visionary legacy. Then the next paragraph talks about this beautiful retreat. You know, at this retreat for women writers in 1988, Octavia E. Butler said that she never wanted the title of being a solitary Black female sci-fi writer. She wanted to be one of many sci-fi writers. She wanted to be one of thousands of folks writing themselves into the present and into the future. We believe in the right of Butler's claim of each of us, the right to dream ourselves individually and collectively. But we also think it's a responsibility. She handed down, are we brave enough to imagine beyond the boundaries of the real and then do the hard work of sculpting reality from our dreams? Ooh, that last line. Like, are we brave enough to dream and then not just stop there, but to actually like do the work to make the dream a reality? I think that's also the organizing piece of it. I think when people talk about dreaming, when they say this is naive, you're just going to a corner and just doing something weird. Like, no, it actually, we have to dream this up. We have to like work and do work to get us to the next stage. We have to put in labor. And I think in this moment, to your question earlier, like how am I not getting stuck in despair? I think I'm putting in work and labor to get to the world that we want to see, even if I'm not going to be there. So Black Radical Imagination, it asks us to do two things at a high level. I think first, to dream beyond what we've told is possible. And I think sci-fi does a good job of that. Like we can dream, you know, aliens. I mean, that's possible. I know we know now, but like we could dream aliens. We can dream space travel, going light years away. Like we can dream these things. We can dream time travel. Like all of that feels okay when we're like watching a movie or reading a book. But why does it not feel okay when we're thinking about the world we want to build? When we dream a world without prisons or without cops, we dream of a world where folks can be themselves fully, where they don't have to worry about paying for health care or food or housing. Like these things aren't, you know, impossible dreams. So the first thing is we have to dream beyond what people tell us is possible and be brave enough to do that. And then second, we have to sculpt it into reality. We have to literally mold it. We have to put in work. For the last few years, I've been really lucky to work with some amazing folks at Imagine Black, and we've been like sculpting. We've been dreaming about healing justice, dreaming about what life would look like without prisons, without police harming us. We've been dreaming up campaigns and like sculpting it into reality, working with, you know, colleagues and different nonprofits to do policy work together. All those efforts are rooted in more than a critique. And I think critiques are fine. Like we need to look at something and call it what it is, to call out harm. But we also need to be rooted in the desire to build something new. So it's not just asking ourselves what can be dismantled, but what can be created. And I think this moment, I think we have to do both at the same time. We have to talk about what we need to dismantle and what we need to create. And we need more space for dreaming and building. I think we also need this direction. I keep talking about this compass of like where we want to go. We can't fly a plane if we actually don't know where we're trying to land or where we're trying to have our final steps be. So it requires us to point toward the world that we want and take the steps to get it. I don't know if you've seen this, like I see it a lot on Instagram or just in general, all the things it talks about like, oh, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. Have you seen? It's like a t-shirt. It's on everything. And I think what Walida says in the book lands differently for me. Like, ancestors bended reality for me to be there. I'm not just their dreams. Like, they sculpted this world for us. They left it for us, even if they knew it wasn't perfect. And it's our responsibility to keep that legacy going. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I want us to have some space to just talk in small groups. This is another photo from the People's Plan I mentioned. We did this really great exercise where we came together. We could only ask questions of each other, and we started dreaming about what Oregon looked like if it loved Black people. It was a great conversation. It was really hard. We could only ask questions. No one could answer it. So very like Jeopardy style almost. But through that, we were able to start sculpting, to start practicing, to start dreaming about what liberation looked like. Okay. So I think I'm at my last little slide before I want to show you one more quote from Robin DG, just because I'm just driving it home with y'all. But in this book, Freedom Dreams, which I hope if you want a copy, would love for you to have one. They just re-released it a couple years ago. It was originally written 20 years ago, which I was a very young child at that time. But having it re-released in 2022 was really cool. And this quote says, "Without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers or tactics, but a process that can and must transform us." I think there's so much about Black radical imagination that requires us to go inward. It requires us to name things out loud, to conjure it up, so to speak, to do that with the collective. And like, yeah, there will be tactics, there will be strategy, we will do protesting, we'll do policy, we'll do the things. But again, if we don't actually have the vision, like, what are we doing? What are we moving towards? It feels empty at times. So we just got done doing some radical visionary organizing. A couple weeks back, we did a whole summit focused on reimagining public safety. Again, just saying, like, what would our safety systems look like if it loved us? We were able to do some collaging, which you see on here, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and do some demonstrations. We're also able to just talk in small groups and kind of name the world we want to see. Again, not shying away from the world is like, it's impossible not to talk about that, but to make sure that we hold some space for that building. So I want us to do some like small groups. If I'm not mistaken, I'm looking around. I think I have a few more minutes left, maybe like 15 more minutes. But before we do that, if it's okay with y'all, I kind of want to just take some moments for some like inward work and some breathing practice, if that's okay. Let me put my book down. Okay. So if you feel comfortable, would y'all mind closing your eyes with me? If that doesn't feel good, you can look towards something. You can like soften your gaze, but try to just like soften your body a little bit, get comfortable. If you need your shoulders to drop, I want you to take some deep breaths with me in and out. I'm going to let you do that on your own pace. Yeah, try to make some space. We're going to take some 3 long intentional breaths, and we're going to start visioning what this world would look like. So I want you to breathe in and make some room to reflect as you breathe out. I want you to breathe in, make some room for imagination, and breathe out a little bit. I want you to breathe in and make some room for hope, and then breathe out, making some space. So keeping your eyes closed, I want you to think about these questions internally. Maybe have a little conversation with yourself in your head, but what do you imagine when you hear the word liberation? I know for me, I tend to smile every time I hear the word liberation and imagination. But like, think about what it looks like. What does it feel like? Imagine the moment that we win. What does winning look like for you? What if everything that we advocate for, that we fight for, what if it happens? What does that morning look like? How does it feel in your body? My favorite one is, what does it smell like? For me, it smells like cinnamon for some reason. I can't figure out why, but like, cinnamon is there. I smell my grandmother's biscuits. You know, who's there with you in this morning when we win? What are we doing that day? Let's go a little deeper. What do you long for? Not just for yourself, but for your people. What do you believe that you and all of us, what do we deserve? Mm. What do all of us, every person in this place, this state, this world, what do we need to be made whole? Okay, let that vision root inside of you. And now if you feel comfortable, if you want to open your eyes, I want us to get in some small groups, but the question that I want us to focus on in this book, this Robin D.G. Kelly I keep referencing, this Freedom Dreams, in the first chapter, he says this thing or writes this thing. It says, "What are today's young activists dreaming about? We know what we're fighting against, but what are we fighting for?" I think this is the question that lives in the heart of Black radical imagination. It's something you go to over and over again when things get stressful. Like, what am I fighting for? So I'm hoping we can kind of spend some time, maybe at a table, if you want to grab up with someone in groups of 2 or 3, whatever feels good. I want to do some collective ranting, if that's okay. So I'm going to have like 2 minutes on the clock. You're just going to speak. You're just going to say what it looks like, what it feels like. It doesn't have to be perfect. English should not be my language, so it doesn't even have to be in English. It can be whatever grammar feels good for you, but describe what that world looks like for you. What if we win? What if we have everything? Who's with you? What does it smell like? If you can get in some groups, and I'll start the time, and I'll let you know when you need to switch. Yeah. Okay, y'all. We're gonna come back if that's okay. We have about 5 more minutes before I have to pass it to a friend of mine, to my to my husband, who's gonna do some some collaging with y'all. But I realized I threw a lot at y'all all at once. Wanted to hold some space. We have some time at the end for some more questions, but if there's any questions or if anyone, want to share their vision, just wanted to hold some space at the end. Yeah, but also I'm feeling quite a lot of appreciation for the things I got a chance to listen in on. Does anyone have a question or they want a comment or just want to share a quick vision of how they would like to see the world? It's okay if you don't. Hmm. Oh, yeah. I, I had a feeling. I was like, I think. Thank
Yes. Oh,
you.
thank you, thank you. Um, we were talking about the mind and body connection
Mm,
and being able to help people become more healthy in both mind and body,
mm,
and then with that health of both and that more complex thinking that's associated with more peacefulness and calm, then trying to put that thought forward and from a place of peace, trying to be and make the other people around us peaceful just by us being peaceful, just being the change that we want to see, and then allowing it to just extend from ourselves and not
mm.
trying to impose, but just trying to be and look for that greater being and that healthier being and that more zen, and yeah, putting that thought forward and being like, okay, how can the planet be more healthy? Like, I'm healthy, I'm peaceful, how can I make things around me more healthy and peaceful? And then just going from there, and yeah, that's
I
kind of what I was
love
thinking a
that.
little
I
bit.
love that.
Yeah.
Rehearsing
Thank you
what
for
liberation
listening.
looks like. Yeah. If you want the world to be peaceful, we got to figure out what that looks like. No, I
Yes.
resonate with that a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have a little something they want to share? Again, no pressure. Doesn't have to be perfect. Hmm. Oh yeah, please.
In my group, we were talking about how we want to see more care in the world, and for people to know that not everybody's in the same situation and every situation is different.
Yeah, yeah. I do a lot of organizer snaps, so I'm like, yes. I feel like, gosh, this country is such a country that is just devoid of care and like understanding. So I resonate that. Like the world, how do we make the world look and feel like a place that, yeah, values caring for others? Thank you. Hmm. Anybody else feeling something on their heart? Again, no pressure. I'm gladly to. Oh, got another one? Okay, I got excited. I was like, come with it. Oh yeah, please.
We really just talked about um, just having things in place that really um, are for perpetrators of violence, because it's very hard for a lot of us to think about what it would look like to be you know, understanding or compassion towards people who enact violence on other people. But in order to really, I don't know, reach that place that we're talking about, I feel like it's integral that we do that we really learn how to bring in those people and really realize how it could be any one of us, because those things and just enacting violence on other people can come from so many different places that we really need to analyze and look at that, and it matters.
Thank you for that abolitionist dream. I think about that a lot. You know, we're not the worst things we've ever done. And how do we bring people in and not cancer them and go through accountability and healing? Thank you for that. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? No pressure. Oh yeah. I mean, you know, of course.
I was also thinking a lot of the hospitals right now and a lot of like aid, like medical aid. There's a lot of focus on treating symptoms out there. And I think that what's more important is getting to the root and finding the imbalances and the disharmonies, looking from a more like naturopathic perspective and finding those balances again, finding that harmony and addressing the root so that we have no more symptoms. We don't have to keep on treating those symptoms. Come on.
Come on.
Sorry,
Come
I'm really
on.
mad
That's a
about it.
snap. Yeah, yeah. I think that's such it's so important. So I'm really grateful that you mentioned that. I think that's also why I like radical imagination. It gets to the root of it. Because sometimes it feels like we're just saying the same things over and over again. We're only addressing the symptoms, whether it's in our body or society. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Anything else? Oh, yeah, go for it. I was thinking, I was like, I think you're saying yes. Go for it.
Yeah, I guess like more opportunities, like events like this, like outside of Portland, because I know like other people who would want to be interested, but like there's so many boundaries, transportation, just like strict parents in general or unsupportive parents. Like I just even myself, I feel like lucky being in this space, because if I haven't found it, I feel like my mental health would have gotten worse and stuff, and like I feel like we also, especially like people in Oregon, like organizers in Oregon, I think we need a reminder, like we can't always just do things in the Portland metro, because I see so many events. I'm like, oh, I should go, but I'm like, oh no, it's in Portland, I can't go and stuff. So I feel like having more like space, because there is like, I know in Washington County there's like a huge like, it's like wait, there's like a huge POC community in like Hillsborough and stuff. So I feel like, you know, having more opportunities for people is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Snap to that. Ooh, Portland and their privilege. Say it, say it. Yeah, how do we organize across geographic areas and not assume everyone's going to be here or even want to be here? No, I resonate with that. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, I'm at my time, y'all. We're not going to stop imagining. So we're going to move it into some art practice now. We're going to hold some space to just, get out of our heads and get into our, think a little bit more in a different way to try to visualize what this looks like. I'm really excited to bring, I said my friend, but is my friend, Rob Lewis. He's an amazing artist. You can kind of see one of his collage pieces on the wall over there. He's going to talk a little bit about his practice of like building worlds and connecting to our history and our past while building something really beautiful. Yeah, so Rob Lewis.
I guess for me, when I think of a term like Black radical imagination, I remember the first time hearing it, it made so much sense to me because for me, the generation I am, the age I am, even just being creative for a living, being an artist, was something that I had to dream beyond what sort of was laid in front of me as like the path to walk, you know? I think because in a lot of ways, our parents, grandparents' generation, they were shut out of positions that were deemed prestigious or especially dignified or seen as contributing to society in, you know, some kind of positive way. And so things like being a doctor, being a lawyer, being successful in business was really important. And so they pushed us towards that, which is not wrong. But if you happen to, you know, one of your children is like this sensitive kid who just reads books and draws and likes basketball, it's like maybe there's something else that you can help them find. But again, it's like they were doing the best with the information they had, which is where a radical imagination comes in. You have to be brave enough, like Joy said, to see something for yourself beyond what you previously imagined. So, you know, I dropped out of law school. And it sort of came with this realization of like, okay, I've done a thing the way I feel like it was expected of me. Now let me see what it feels like to do something because I want to do it, which sort of led me down the path of becoming a creative full time. And collage specifically for me, I started really getting into it maybe like 10 years ago, mostly because I'm not a painter. If you give me a good amount of time and space to like draw a thing, I can give you like an approximation of it, but I'm not the person that can just, I've seen those people who can just sit down, look at a person and transpose their likeness onto a sheet of paper. It's pretty like remarkable. So I'm like, okay, I'm not that person. So what are some other mediums of art that give me that similar kind of feeling, that make me feel engaged with my hands and my sort of other senses while I'm doing it? And then also from a material standpoint, what makes me feel like I'm contributing to a lineage that extends beyond myself? I heard a quote yesterday on a podcast episode. It was an interview. This person said, to be original, you have to go back to the origin. And so the point at which sort of collage changed for me from being something that I was just experimenting with as a non-painter, to something that I felt could really anchor my entire practice, was when I had a book. It was actually not about collage. It was about quilting, or Black American quilting specifically, and like the material culture and creative lineage that sits within, between like textiles from Africa and the Caribbean and Brazil and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But they had this spot in the book. It was a tiny little inset, and it had a photo of a house in the rural South during Reconstruction era. So a black family home in the rural South during Reconstruction, dangerous off the rip, right? But inside, they showed this photo of a wall that was just covered in newspaper. And I thought I was peculiar, so I read, and it said that Black families back then would do this, one, as a cheap sort of source of insulation, and then two, there's a West African belief that writing incorporates knowledge. And so if you rip these pages full of words and images up, then it's impossible to sort of decipher what was written. And therefore, they believe that harmful spirits, or spirits that wish to do them harm in some kind of way, needed to be able to decode the message in order to enter the house. And so if they couldn't do that, then they couldn't enter. So essentially they turned the interior of their home into a protective charm. So to me, that is like a crystal clear example of Black radical imagination, of saying my reality is one where, you know, violence and hate is all around, literally all around me. But within this place that is my space, I can insulate myself from that through knowledge systems that we carried with us. And so when I read that, it just, hit me in the chest. You know, I was like, oh, that's what I've been trying to find. That's the information I've been trying to find. And so from sort of that moment on, I went from working like this, which is about, 16 by 20, to that, because I knew from that moment on, my collages needed to feel like walls. And so, that's sort of my goal as an artist going forward, is to bring that tradition, that piece of historical narrative that completely reshaped my practice, into the forefront, and continue to sort of interrogate it, have a dialogue with it, expand the visual language of it, thinking about walls in a house, what goes on a wall, what sits in front of a wall. So, it really transformed, like, it meshed with this point at which collage was becoming sort of a way of thinking for me, and not just a way of making. Because as a way of thinking, it sort of supports people who want to bring disparate pieces of ideas from sort of disparate realms together on the same plane. I don't know if anybody knows an artist named Arthur Jafa. Anybody familiar? So he was trained as a cinematographer. There's one of his first films he did with the director Julie Dash. It's called Daughters of the Dust. It's an incredible film. You should definitely watch it. And so, his practice is image based, whether that's film or he collects photos and images in archives in a much more sophisticated and organized way than I do. But he said, I'm not manipulating the images, I'm manipulating the space between the images. And so that really like resonated with me as a person. I feel like that's sort of what I do as well. And, the whole reason I sort of use dead stock Black publications, one, I grew up with them. So as a material, they're infused with a sense of memory, tactile memory, smelling the ink on the page, remembering seeing these different photographs taken by people whose work I now understand is like, runs the length of hip hop itself. And going through that process and remembering that when I was younger, I noticed certain things about these things I was seeing and reading. And so now I'm just sort of fragmenting them by, ripping and tearing and placing them together, which to me, it sort of feels like painting. It also kind of feels like, there's a term in jazz, it's called woodshedding. And it means when you are just solo in the lab working on a composition or a set of compositions, and you're just really deep into it, almost trance-like. And so that's how I feel. Like that's how I feel when I felt when I made that. I would just go. I made it in the space where I showed it, and I would just go there every day for like a week, and I would start and I would look down at my phone and it was like 5 hours had passed. So, jazz is another heavy influence for me. I look at it as like I'm trying to create a certain type of jazz as a visual artist. And I think that also goes back to this idea of collage being a way of thinking. How can I take something and reinterpret it through another lens and end up with something different? Even thinking about the original gesture that I'm referencing, it's like all they had was the newspapers of the day, which probably had a lot of really damaging, harmful images of us in it. But they still found a way to use it for their protection. Where I could intervene is now there exists all of these publications and images that were specifically designed to reflect authentically our culture back to us. And so now I can cover these wall-like surfaces with us, you know? And so that's that is something that I feel like I can contribute to this tradition. So the way I usually approach this is, and there's no right or wrong way, so I'm just telling you the way that I do it. I like to start by building like a background layer. What I'm grabbing, don't try to put elements that you actually want to see in the end result. Don't put those in that first layer. Save those. And then I sort of go in with a mid layer that's really focused on bringing color into certain parts of it. Like you'll see, if you see with this one, you know, there are moments of red and orange and yellow and black and white and stuff all throughout. So that second layer, I sort of focus on kind of distributing color evenly throughout. And then the last layer is where I just add those bits and pieces that I feel like will really pop. Like this piece was like pretty, like one of the last pieces. This one as well. So yeah, I try to like save those pieces that have really graphic or striking visual material in them. I try to save those for last and really just like accent the spaces where I see kind of gaps. So that's sort of the basic architecture of like the way I like to collage, is just sort of build it up layer by layer. And I what that also does is gives you like a depth to it as well. And it's good for the first layer, you can tear bigger pieces because you're just trying to cover the surface. And then as you know, get into those like top layers, the pieces can get smaller and more varied, and you can just kind of see where you're called to on the surface, and place things as you see fit. And that's the thing. It's like no matter where you end up, it's collage to me is like a portrait of the body in motion, because you're seeing all these different places where you're activating the picture plane. And even though you're not necessarily like drawing a self-portrait, this is a snapshot of how you are interacting with this surface. You know what I mean? And then your tools, Mod Podge is pretty much like all I use for adhesive. You're gonna want to, tear a piece and then put some Mod Podge on the back of it. So the sides you want facing up, don't put it on that side. The side you want facing down, put it on that side. And before you do that, just put a little bit of Mod Podge in sort of a general area about the size of the piece you want to put down. So that way the surface has some adhesive, your piece has some adhesive. Press it, like hold it for a little bit, and then carefully move your hand. Make sure you don't move it while you take your hand away, and then go to the next piece. It's very much a call and response kind of thing. And Miles Davis had this quote. He said, there are no wrong notes. There's only the note after the note you just played. So if you think about it that way, it really frees your mind up to really dive deep into that sort of imaginative, almost automatic state, because you're not worrying about what do I do next. You just intuitively sort of do it. And I think giving ourselves space to do that, to really step away or move away from these ideas of what makes an image good or beautiful, and you just do the thing that you feel, that will end up being way more beautiful and true than something that you maybe were trying to contrive too much. Does that make sense?
So we're talking about radical imagination and like what we want for our future. Do you like do you guys have any like advice onto making it a reality in the future?
I mean, from the lens of like the like as an artist, or do you mean just in general?
Just in general.
Oh, okay. I think that one of the things that's always resonated with me is that, you know, the responsibility is a collective one, and finding the people who are aligned with you in the way you view what the world could be. To me, that's like one of the most important steps is relinquishing this idea that you have to do it all by yourself, and instead reveling in the fact that it's something that you get to do with a community.
Are there any like emotions or motifs that you find yourself going back to in your art?
Oh, very good question. Yeah, for sure. I think definitely this idea of the divine black feminine comes through in my work a lot. Like, you'll see places where a likeness like sort of peeks out, and to me that is me communicating with like a higher spiritual being, you know, and what I imagine them as. And it's just something that I usually know, you know, which I like using art as a way to sort of embed these like secret codes within your work. Anybody else? And it's okay if you don't. No pressure. I know I also threw a lot at y'all, so. So should we get started then? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think just get some magazines. I'm here if you if you have any questions or support. I'll be working on my own thing up here. And yeah, just have fun. Don't think about it too much. And yeah, just don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, because they'll get sticky and paper will get everywhere, and just like lean into it.
At Imagine Black, we envision living in a city that loves Black people. We imagine a world where every Black person has the rights, resources, and recognition to be part of a thriving, resilient, and connected community. We are freedom dreamers. Now is the time to invest in Black liberation and self-determination. Your support is critical to this work. A donation to Imagine Black helps us maintain our capacity to affect change in the Black community. Your contributions can help us build Black voter power, advance the call to reimagine our public safety and criminal justice system, and push for a just transition from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy. We all have a role to play in the movement for Black liberation. Go to imagineblack.org/donate. Please give generously. Together we will turn dreams into reality.